Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sunday Morning Coffee with Lisa. I'm Spiritual Coach Lisa Hopp. It is Sunday, February 15th, 2026. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new to this podcast, please be sure to check out my website at lisahopp.com. I'm also on Instagram under Spiritual Coach Lisa Hopp. I'm on Facebook under my business page, Lisa M. Hopp, Spiritual Coach and Medium. And I'm on TikTok. Believe it's at Lisa M. Hopp on TikTok, and I will be loading material. I know if you're listening to this every week, you're like, we know, Lisa, you keep saying you're loading material, but I honestly have it ready to go. So don't give up. Thank you, and thank you, of course, always to those who listen every week. I appreciate you so very much. Just makes my heart well up with gratitude when I hear feedback from those who are listening to this podcast and who are being positively being benefited from this podcast. I appreciate it so very much. All right, so today's topic: does manifestation contradict the Bible? Now, who is speaking to you today? The little girl that was raised Roman Catholic, who was was brought to church when she was very young every Sunday, who had all her childhood sacraments. That little girl wishes to speak to you today and to answer that question from where I came from and where I now currently am as a more senior adult, right? Laughing at how I put that. And so, here's the thing. As some of you know my backstory, I'm going to still repeat the backstory a bit today. I can remember very young, perhaps a toddler, speaking to God outside of my bedroom window and saying literally, I know I'm here to be a spiritual teacher, but I don't know what to do. I can remember walking through the school halls and not feeling like I belonged, feeling like this earth was really rough. And all those kids were doing, they were playing around, they were shoving each other into lockers or, walls, because I don't think in elementary school we had walkers or lockers. And I just didn't know what to feel, what to do. Not feeling special in an egotistical way, just feeling different. Having an understanding that I had had past lives, but also having an understanding about God and who I felt God was, who I personally knew God to be. And today I speak to you about my personal faith, my personal revelation about God, and giving it to you with your free will to process on your own. I can remember sitting in church and hearing the priest, again so young, and thinking, knowing about past lives. Now, I don't remember verbatim, because I was so young, what the priest was saying, but my common sense says probably something about we have this one life. And I remember just thinking, no, I've lived before. I've had more than one life. I do not remember saying that out loud, just having a knowing. I also, right before my first communion sacrament, I received a book. And the book was explaining the Mass. And it gave you step by step how to perform the Mass. So in my bedroom, I performed the Mass with the readings, with dispensing of the sacrament, all of that. I loved it. It was my playtime. So this little girl embodied that faith, embodied that relationship with God very young from the get-go. Not taught to me, I came with it. What was taught to me was that God could be angry. God could be judgmental. That I was a sinner. That I had to receive these sacraments hopefully with the hope of going to heaven. That it wasn't guaranteed. And I remember sitting again in church and thinking to myself, I don't understand how they are describing God means that I'm a better person than God. And I don't think that's possible. That doesn't make sense. Because often what I was taught as a child, and it was so contradicting, it would go from God is love, God loves you, to God is angry, God is judging. So you had that contradiction. It's almost like God was bipolar or something, and I don't, by the way, make fun of bipolar with that. There were moods. And so I didn't understand. It didn't make sense. And that's how I live my life today, by the way. It's meaning, what I mean is, one of the things that that gets me is when I don't understand something. It has to line up. It has to make sense. And when it doesn't make sense, I know that what I believe about it is probably truth. And that started when I came to this earth. What is the truth within me compared to what someone is saying to me? And everything that I've acquired to believe over the decades I've been here has come from that. It's like, does my gut, does my intuition, does my inner self, does it resonate with that or not? And I came to accept people who channel because I trusted my inner self rather than verbatim what was being said from them, because I didn't know how I felt about them when I first started to listen. And so all of us, me, are given this inner sixth sense, this inner ability to discern. And so when something doesn't add up within you, that is your inner voice telling you to not listen to what you're hearing. There's something off. Now, as little 6-year-old Lisa wanted to be a priest. I loved the whole thought of it. And when I got older, when I matured, when I became an adult, I still wanted to be. And I traveled to see several priests. One was a very kind, patient Monsignor in my church. And what it came down to was, you're not allowed. You have to be a nun, one said. And one, simply the Monsignor said, it's just a matter of faith. And I didn't understand it at the time, why the faith would not allow me to be a priest in that church. Now today I am an interfaith minister, ordained. But honestly, I'm still the priest. I apply that pastoral priestliness to my work. Not in a preachy way, not in a, in a way that's spiritual, as holy as I can be being a human being. but it is my compromise for not being able to take the actual priestly vows, not being allowed to. And I understand today that when that Monsignor said it's a matter of faith, what he meant was it contradicts the teachings of the church, of what the church wants. It's about the church. It isn't about God. It isn't about even faith in God. It was really the written laws and rules of the organization. I needed time to come to that understanding, because faith to me is faith and trust in a higher being, not in an organization. So I had to understand the words and how he meant them that day. So the little girl that came with an understanding of a loving energy, a loving God, creation, other lives, is the adult, the woman, the interfaith minister, the person who serves mankind. I do that today. I figured it out. The 6-year-old girl figured it out. With help. With a lot of help figuring it out. With a lot of signs. With a lot of direction. With a lot of prayer. Figured it out. And I was not meant to figure it out at 6 years old, most likely. Though maybe that would have sped things up a bit if I had been given the answer that day from my attic bedroom. But I did not get it. So I had to go through the ebbs and flows and the journeys of coming to a place of understanding what I'm here for. In my personal life purpose role. So today I come to you as a person who was taught to have a fear of God. And the programming gets you young. While my intuition, my gut, my soul knew what God was and is. When you hear something over and over again, you might not get to heaven. You better hope you please this God. You better listen to the Bible and obey it. Fear, and fear, it can't help but penetrate you. It can't help to make an impact. And when I started my a bit alternative work 20 years ago full-time, but even I did it part-time first, I really had to get around that. I really had to come to a safety place that I could serve in this way that I do, in the way that I do, and that I wasn't going to hell. But I have a vow, I have a contract, I have a promise with higher energy due to what has been brought to me in my life, and that is, I promise to always serve honestly, authentically, never lie, never deceive, always for the higher good of my client and the higher good of all. I said it yesterday to a client when they said, "Really?" When I said something to them. I said, "I will never deceive you," and I point upward. I'm not going to get in trouble with the boss. Right? I made that energy promise that to me because I had to have that confidence and that faith and that trust. I had to be able to say that to someone who wasn't sure that they should spend time with me. Because I teach that you can connect to God yourself. Well, by the way, I used to go to confession a whole lot. When I was a young adult, I was there pretty much every week. One time I went, and I felt like the priest had given me community service. I think pretty much he did. And I'm laughing because there was a part of me that thought, I think he's like upping any little menial sin I was in. If I had a dirty thought, I was going. And a young lady is going to have thoughts, as a young man would have. So it wasn't just say 5 Our Fathers and 5 Hail Marys. It was literally, I want you to get out and serve in a community way. So community service. And I remember thinking, he doesn't want me back next week. he's upping the punishment. Not to say community service is necessarily a punishment, but there was more activity that he was giving me rather than just prayer. And so I was going because I kept trying to keep myself cleansed, because I was taught that I was dirty. I was a sinner. Whatever was going on. God is much more loving than that. Knows we're human. Sees us for who we truly are. Not the thoughts that we can have sometime, because gosh, don't we all have thoughts? Don't we all have moments where we're tested? Don't we hear sometimes about something happening to someone and we want the worst punishment to come to that person who's done it? And so we get a lot of grace, a lot of love, a lot of understanding from this higher energy, as we would want to have, truly, what we hope for. I often say this to clients, and because it's the truth of what I know, that we want to know that we are all right to be in heaven, that we are all right to go to heaven. In my role as a mediumship, number one thing that's said when they come in is that I'm all right. And what they mean is, I'm in heaven. I'm all right. Because we're taught we might not go, that we may not be all right. So we want to console those on earth by telling them we made it. Because sometimes we wonder if someone has made it by their very actions. And so they're very happy to give that consolation that I have. And then their experience in heaven is a whole other thing. We all go through healing. We get our review. It's an experience. You don't just go in, slide in, and it's all wiped away. I mean, the burdens are. You get light, but in our journey, we do have that justice. We do have that. The consequences for the actions, yes, but all based in love, not based in what we're taught in fear. That energy does not have to be feared, though it can be overwhelming in its power. So back to when you want to manifest things in your life, are you contradicting those teachings? And this speaks to the little boy or girl within you that was taught to obey, that was taught to be disempowered. that was taught the things that I was taught about a God, about an energy. So here's the thing. The Bible backs up manifestation. It backs it up. In Hebrews 11:1, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. This is literally the unseen becoming seen. A famous one that we manifestors love to go towards. Mark 11:24. Whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it. That's embodiment. Embodiment that what you've asked for, it is done. You can receive it. As long as you don't block it, it's yours. And alignment with it, which is also embodiment. John 5:14. If we ask according to his will, that is surrender. Biblical faith has always involved intention, belief, trust, but always in relationship with God or a higher power. And here's the wonderful thing. All the historic teachings, even those beyond Christianity, say the same thing. They just say it in their own way. Christians say prayer. Some would say intention. Some say co-creation. Some say alignment. Some say manifestation. It's all the same thing. Just as you do not have to call God God. You can call God Source. You can call God Creator. You can call highest energy. You're labeling the same thing. Where you would separate from that highest energy that I have learned and I prefer to call God is when you make it about your own ego. Rather than having a relationship, a co-creation with the God energy, with the highest energy. When you manifest and you're not embodying, aligning, surrendering, you're saying, I do it on my own. I have control. You do have control over your thoughts and your feelings and your words. But when you're saying that I'm doing this all on my own, that's when the separation is there. When you are embodying, when you are aligning, you are trusting in faith. Even Jesus modeled this in Luke 22:42. Not my will, meaning with ego, but yours be done. The overall will, the overall good. Again, embodiment, co-creation, but surrendering, knowing that you're not on your own. There's a great mentor I have now, and she, as she speaks, is one that did not have a faith in God, did not have a belief that would be what you might call an atheist. And she started to see in her life evidence that there was a higher force at work, things she couldn't explain, things lining up in a way that was supernatural a bit. She also started to see that what she believed she got. And she started to implement that. That is the way of the world right now. That faith is an understanding, a coming into practice through multiple interface, not just one religion or one way, but through faith we receive. And also, and this one is a bit of an obstacle for many of us, that it's all right to desire, that it's all right to desire wealth. It's all right to desire whatever you would want to have. Because we are taught that the meek inherit the earth, or that we should want for less. The energy of heaven, though, and think about the common sense of it. As I said, the young Lisa would say, wait, that doesn't make sense, that teaching. Yes, we're not supposed to keep all of our wealth at our own house, at our own gate, at our own door. But why wouldn't a loving God want us to have enough to share with others, to take care of ourselves, to give? Why would a loving God want us to suffer in poverty on this earth? That would be a bit cruel. A loving God energy is not cruel. But there is free will. And so a loving energy is not going to give us all $1 million, knowing that we are in a place where we don't feel we are valuable or deserving enough to have it, and then we blow it. So it's about receiving, and then giving and receiving, being in that higher flow. I could go into more scripture of a heaven that backs up an abundant life. There are even teachings that were left out of the Bible that were discovered that tell us that what we ask for, we are allowed to receive. Manifestation is not forcing reality. It is not going against a higher source. It is simply aligning our thoughts, words, and actions with divine will and trusting what unfolds. In my personal understanding, God is the source. That highest creator energy is the source, and not an impersonal force. That's why there are angels and spirit guides. and other helpers from heaven for us. Now, some would say, well, I would too, like attracts like. That is a bit autopilot, meaning what you put out, you get back. But it doesn't mean that you aren't loved. It doesn't mean there's no caring. That's part of the free will. All prayers are answered. When you ask for angels, you get them. You have them anyway, but you get more. So what I've come to know about manifestation is that it's a partnership with that highest source energy or God. It whispers within you, it's a part of you, and it's around you. Every once in a while, and there was no particular person that caused me to want to talk about this topic today, or my own inner self. But as my vocation moves forward, I will be offering more interfaith teachings, and that includes scripture. So it's almost like a trailer for that a bit. But every once in a great while, someone will contact me. It used to happen more 20 years ago. But it has happened. It has happened in the last year. Should I have fear about coming to you? I saw a comment when I posted on my business page on Facebook, probably in the last few months, where I had posted something, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was about having God within. And a person commented, I pray out to God. That energy is within us and on the outside of us, responds to us, guides us. It's interwoven. It is not separate from us. It cannot separate from us. We can separate from it through our belief systems, but it does not separate from us ever. We manifest whether we're trying to or not. It's automatic. Today, whenever you listen to this, everything you think and feel is being created in your life. That's why a lot of us teachers will tell you, don't dwell on the past of the sad memories. And I mean when people hurt you, memories, when someone betrayed you. Something, and I'm not talking about physical death, that is a separate thing. But dwelling on the past brings it into the future. It's a loop. We want to focus on the present moment and having an understanding of what we want in our lives that will physically appear in the future. You are creative source, working in partnership with the highest, most powerful creative source. Sometimes it's asked of me, why? What's the whole point of it? Because it brings that creative highest source, the greatest joy, to experience creation through you. Joy, love, happiness, lack of fear. We are hearing so much now about being fearless, because fear is an illusion. But we're programmed to fear God, man, life, circumstances, experiences, this heavenly energy would tell you there's no need to fear. In the coming time, I will be sharing more to help, to assist with understanding of my personal belief system and knowing of what I've experienced about heaven. Meaning backing it up with teachings. I hope you would join me. I hope that will give you reassurance in every way. Security, support, love, especially security in knowing that you are backed up by a team that truly loves and supports you and will always answer the call. Always answer the call. You may not hear it because we can be in a state, but will always answer. Have the awareness. Surrender with trust and faith. Know that you are not here to suffer. Believe a little bit that that's true. On faith. And with that awareness, watch. There are those on this earth that started with, I don't believe in this God thing. And now have grown in such a way of faith in God that they gush. Gushing is good. I have always, throughout my decades of life, in the greatest moments of challenges, when I've been on my knees, not knowing how I can survive the next moment, I've always extended my arm. I may be at my worst hour, but I'm extending that arm. Will you take that arm, please? God, will you give me light? Will you give me an answer? Will you help me to move forward? It always does. It always has. I know it always will. You have the ability to have that same relationship if you so choose. But like the prodigal child story, that energy will never ever leave you, as I said, but will also never give up on you. It's the same in heaven. You can be the worst person going, but they will always want for your redemption. That is true, unconditional, immeasurable love. I hope that helps today. Thank you very much for joining me. Once again, if you would, check me out on my website. It needs editing, but it's lisahop.com. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share if you feel called. And again, find me at my business page on Facebook and on Instagram under Spiritual Coach Lisa Hop. Thank you again. Have a wonderful Sunday if you're listening on Sunday. A wonderful week, and I'll talk to you next time.